What is up, wrongful beings? It's Gage here, and today I got special guest Rebekah Stangl, and she has over 30 years of experience in the special needs education and her first year as an evaluator. And I'm grateful to have her on the podcast and to hear her experiences and lessons through all those experiences you've had for the past 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a ride, I'll tell you that. I've gone through my very first year of teaching. We didn't even have computers in the classrooms yet. And all of our IEPs were handwritten. And on those, those carbon paper copy where you wrote underneath and you'd make a copy underneath to send home to the parents. And we would maybe write one goal a year for students who had special needs. Now it's templates and charts and data and huge packets of stuff. So it's definitely changed a lot over the years. So
Yeah, from a 30-year period, I couldn't imagine from the beginning to now. Probably almost feels like a dream. Like, how did I start from here to there? Like, with all the
mhm.
technologies now, the computer, the tablets, like all of it.
Yeah. And the schools have actually come quite a ways. When I first started, students or children with disabilities were still largely pushed off into the corners and, were to not be seen, but just be in the building. And so I really have to, the part I do give credit for is that I do feel that the schools are really trying to do their best to incorporate students with special needs more and more into the typical setting. The part I think that they mess up on is some kids don't want to be incorporated. It's very scary
Mm.
for some kids. It's overwhelming for some kids. And I think we went from this pendulum where it was these kids were not allowed in the schools or in the classrooms at all to we're forcing a lot of them into the classrooms, even when it's not what's in their best interest. And in my mind, the federal law has something called least restrictive environment, LRE, but least restrictive environment might look different for every student. And so I think it's super important that we advocate that every child is unique and different, and how we program for them should be unique and different as well. That we shouldn't be trying to fit kids into like a cookie cutter shape.
Mm.
Instead, we should be molding the system around them.
I 100% agree. And really, we should, people that like are autistic or have a disability, I don't even like to say disability. I want to get a new word for it because it means lack of ability. And I
Mhm.
absolutely don't agree with that. There's
Yeah.
examples, Albert Einstein, Elon Musk, who just helped him for
Mhm.
presidency. You
Yep.
know, like there's many examples of people with autism that have changed the world. And I believe a
Mhm.
lot of the great creations we have today are people with autism.
Mhm.
You know, and we really should be molding these students
Mhm.
to their strengths. Because what I would change about the school system is not work on their weaknesses. Do not work on that. As
Yep.
someone that's running a business and a podcast, what I'm doing is getting people that can help me with my weaknesses because right now I'm working on my strengths, and that is a great model. From people
Yep.
I've learned that run businesses, they don't work on their weaknesses. They always work on their strengths because that's the best way to do it, and that
Mhm.
excels their confidence and it helps overall the whole thing. You know, and I think that really should be the model for school systems.
I agree with you, Gage. I think, first of all, I agree with you that just because in our world, our educational world, we call them disabilities, I really just think they're unique learners, and that's really the way to think about it. And then with being a unique learner, what does that mean and how does that look? And I think a lot of the reasons kids don't like school is because, like you said, we focus on all the things that they're not good at and we tear it down. But if you are a really good educator and a really good teacher, you take your students' strengths and you build what they need to learn inside of it. So, like a silly example might be if I'm working with a little kid and I want them to learn the alphabet and letters, but if they're really struggling with it, but they love Legos. I might write letters on Legos and we'll build things with Legos and we'll construct things with Legos so they're having fun and they're using their strengths, but yet they're inadvertently learning.
Mm.
And those are some ways that, if you're really taking advantage of those unique learners, those are things that you would do, rather than sit at the table, fill out this worksheet. They need so much more than that. And they need also a teacher and a team around them that's loving and understanding and patient and believes in them.
You said it perfectly, and the school system, and I don't really think it's fair to the teacher because the school systems are very vastly outdated. They were
Mhm.
originally constructed for factory workers because this was back
Yeah.
in like the early 20th century, and it has not got updated at all. There's a lot of things that can improve learning, and even the teachers
Mhm.
don't get compensated fairly for all the work they do and for the lives they touch. Because it's very important.
Yep. I agree with you. I mean, I think educations, they mean well, schools mean well. I think there's a lot of phenomenal teachers out there and people with big hearts who want good things, but I think the system is broken and the system needs a lot of help.
From being in special education myself, starting back from like my sixth grade of
Hmm.
not my high school, but middle school. And I can tell you personally that I agree with you. It definitely is broken. Like I was cleaning up trash from Walmart, and they're basically telling us like, you can go as far as being like basically a janitor. There's nothing wrong being janitor, but you're telling kids this, and as the time they go, like that's not okay. They should be able to dream as much as they can. Because what if Albert Einstein would agree with that
Hmm.
limitation? We would never hear his name.
Yep.
And it needs to like this whole system needs to change because it's from what I've heard, it's only getting worse,
Hmm.
and it's like you said, it's broken and it needs to be a new one.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you're a beautiful example of someone who you really were like kind of shut down, right? You were kind of put in a
Yeah,
box for a long time. But once you had that opportunity to express yourself and to focus on your strengths, like look at you now, Gage. I mean, my gosh, you're speaking at the I Can convention. Like that's huge. And you're running a podcast and you told me you didn't speak for the longest time and now you're so articulate. It's like, and a lot of it just had to, it's like a butterfly developing and you just finally got to the point where you got to fly, and it's so cool to see. You might look at me and think like, oh, I got all this experience in this and that, but you're the one I'm inspired by.
I greatly appreciate that, and it's been a lot of self work. It wasn't easy, but one thing that helped me greatly was my two brothers. They believed in me and gave me a lot of love and support. And my oldest brother Hunter, like he helped me in a tremendous way. And he was in the military, and he was at this point in his career, it was very difficult for him, and because he had one of the most stressful jobs in the military.
Yep.
Um, and he still gave me a lot of support. And this is going. He actually adopted me because my parents they
Mm.
weren't in the right situation to really give me the right support.
Yep.
And my brother took me in, and he really pushed me to be my best selves. And he told me I had a gift. Like there was not my parents said I didn't, but it was nice really verbally hearing that. Like I have a
Yep.
gift, and
Hmm.
he really pushed me to be my best self. Like I even got into working out, which I thought was impossible. Even how
Yeah.
crazy that sounds in my mind, I was like, "There's no way I can work out. I've tried. That's it."
Hmm.
But I started working out. That's really when actually no, the year after that I started meditating. But that's when I really got into studying more and working out and all
Hmm.
these healthy habits that I've developed over time, and it helped me get on a roll, which I never had,
Hmm.
and I was in regular classes. Now, obviously, I still they still had me go to job once a week, but it wasn't as bad as other schools were doing, at least,
Hmm.
and it helped me excel. So I think having that support is vastly important because I'm not sure where I
Hmm.
would be if I didn't have that,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think if parents and siblings really tried to not look at their disability as a disadvantage, but really try to understand their strengths, I think that would be
Hmm.
that that's true love and support, and I think that would help a lot of parents if they did that.
Well, again, it goes back to kind of like what we were talking about. You have a unique ability. And what you're waiting for is for someone to see that and help you grow it. That's what it's all about. It's about finding out what your unique abilities are and helping you grow them. We all have things we're not good at. We all have weaknesses. I think I would prefer people would look at my unique abilities rather than the parts of me that I'm not so great at too, right? And I think that's where we need to move in education. And instead of putting everybody in a classroom and making it all about getting through a curriculum, we've pushed all of this stuff down
Mm,
to younger and younger ages. I mean, I remember when you used to go to kindergarten, it was to socialize and get to know friends and to develop, those skills. And now it's like you better be doing what I did in second grade by the time you're 5. And it's like we just need to slow down and we need to take time to let kids grow up and develop their characters and love them and embrace them. And yes, we're going to teach them along the way, but that's not
mm,
where the most important part is. We have a huge problem in our society right now with mental health and depression
mm,
and suicide. And the schools are part of the backbone of that because we've conformed to we'll do like social emotional classes, but we aren't following up. We speak, we're all talk and no do. You know what I mean?
yeah, I hear a lot about mental health and but I'm not seeing as much action. Like
Nope.
there should when you talk about mental health, I believe meditation should be right in the mix of things
Mhm.
because that's helped greatly with my depression I've had. And you're absolutely right. School systems have had a part in the depression and the mental crisis that's been going on.
Mhm.
I know for me, having focusing on my weaknesses, like I was speaking on before, and us going to job sites, even cleaning
Mhm.
up the cafeteria tables in between classes. And kids would see this, and it made me a target, and I would get
Mhm.
bullied, and a lot of other kids in my class would too as well. The ones that would go outside of special needs class,
Yep. Yep.
um, and
Mhm.
it was not a great thing
Mhm.
as you can imagine. And it just all I believe there needs to be a new definition of mental health, like
Yep.
really offer help, more
Mhm.
action, like offer like in schools. Like one thing that I wish that they would have done is add meditation and
Mhm.
how to deal with stress.
Yep. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, and I know it's becoming more of a push to start doing those things in schools, but it's always at the loss of something else. And I think they really need to just figure out, create priorities. What's most
Mm,
important, and build a priority list around it and make sure that social emotional learning and health shouldn't just be one time a week. It needs to be daily. And
mm,
it needs to be something that we embrace kids with. Instead, every time kids are struggling, we send them to the social worker, send them to this, or send them to that. No, we need to be a community. We need to work together as a group, and we need to be instilling these values in all our kids and in our teachers and in our parents.
I can tell you how much I love and respect that. Community is such a vast importance, and a lot of people are like, it's not my specialty. I don't know about mental health. Have you ever had depression? Have you ever felt down? That's part
Mhm.
of that. You don't have to have a degree to offer support,
Yep.
and I think that is really important for all of
Mhm.
us to connect, and especially for the younger generation. I think there has to be a change because obviously there's a higher level of depression and suicide as well. So, I think there needs
Mhm.
to be a lot of reevaluation and to
Yep.
create a better system.
Well, and that's even kind of why I started up my consulting business. It was because there's this huge gap from schools to home and then communities in the middle, right? And our students go off to the school and we expect the schools are teaching them everything they need to know. And even if they are teaching them some things, they're not getting to generalize those skills back home. And the parents don't know what to do, and they don't know how to set up their environment, and they don't know how to talk to them and how to engage with them, depending if they're having a meltdown versus, a sensory moment or a temper tantrum. They don't understand all the differences. And so I started to get to that point where I just like, I want to make an impact and help in the homes. I want to make sure these kids they go home and they get the environment they need and that the parents know what to do and when to do it and how to do it, right? So that
Mm,
they feel like they're in control and because parents feel frazzled. They don't understand. And
Yeah.
like you said, it wasn't because your parents didn't love you, they just didn't understand you. And if the more we can educate and the more we can help families and community members and educate teachers even and get the schools on board, the better it's going to be for everybody.
You said it perfectly. And it's given because we think our way is right. Even though in our perspective we think that is love and true support. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
our perception of support isn't the right support for that person, and it's opened our minds to like this, especially someone with autism. They have their perspectives different, their mind works
Mm-hmm.
differently, and it's really understanding what kind of support they need specifically.
Yep.
Because I know, especially in society, we uh we compare to each other. We say, oh, you're not doing this right, so you got to work on that. You got to work extra hard. And I really think that not just for autism but for everybody, like if we worked on our strengths, like I think that would boost a lot of things, confidence, and you're
Mm-hmm.
working on what you're good at, and we're finding things that we're good at and want to do for the rest of our lives
Mm-hmm.
earlier on.
Yep. Yep. And there's something to be said for having like the foundation of different skills like math and reading and things like that. But what if you want to be, a podcaster? Why can't you work on your public speaking and your computer skills with setting up the video and developing that? You don't need to take all these high-end math classes all the time. We can look at students and children and even adults as, again, unique in their own way and develop them according to the way that they want to go. And it's kind of like what they say right now. It's like some kids are it's great if you want to go to college and you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, but that's not the path for all kids. For some kids, they want to just do a career that they might love. Maybe they want to build birdhouses and start build a business around that. Or like you said, maybe they want to be a YouTuber, maybe they want to be a gamer, maybe they want to be a teacher. Like we aren't fostering the dreams. We're creating a path that we're making them go on and we're stifling their dreams. And I just think like if we just really look at everybody as a unique individual and like you said, foster those strengths and build on those and empower them, we would have a much, much happier society.
I agree with that. Even my podcast, it started something random. It's
Mm-hmm.
the originality of where it started at was when I was 19 years old. So it's in my actually I'm no, this is when I was 18, right before I turned 19. I was in my senior year of high school. It was on the weekend. I was visiting my mother because we're 2.5 hours away from there, and I just like watched this video. I stayed up all night and waiting for the show I wanted to watch. And after watching it, I just felt this pure excitement. I'm like, I want to talk about this, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why not make a video? And that's how it started. And then it led to football for a couple of years, and then I had a breakthrough after a autism burnout, when I
Mm-hmm.
went to the House in the Forest in Georgia, which is just a beautiful place. It's
Mm-hmm.
uh it's a great place to get away and to kind of immerse yourself more into nature. And that really helped me have a breakthrough because one night I had a super spiritual experience
Mm-hmm.
and I had a vision of my podcast and bring more the community together, all of us working together, not just me, but everybody, and us helping each other, not
Yep.
working on
Yep.
the weaknesses, but the strengths of each other and
Mm-hmm.
bringing each other up.
Yep.
And that's how Autism Talk started.
Yep.
And like you're saying, sometimes it starts with a random saying, but you never know
Mm-hmm.
where that path may take you.
Right. Right. And I think what I love about what you do, Gage, and I've met a few other autism advocates, and even what my passion is, it's to really educate the population and let them see that just because somebody has autism doesn't mean that they can't be a beautiful person with a beautiful life. And instead of placing these judgments upon them, we need to embrace them and grow with you, because
Mhm.
so many of the things that's inside someone who has autism, we can learn from it. There's so many strengths and special uniquenesses that autism brings with you, that it can actually, like you said, Elon Musk, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's look at what a beautiful man he is because of autism, right? And it's like it's the same thing, and we just really need to, instead of always pointing out how everybody is different, we need to celebrate those differences, and we don't need to like make those differences like, I feel like sometimes we get, we start pointing out the differences and like, oh, they're different in this and that. And like, so, oh, isn't that cool? But no, we don't even need to point it out. We just need to embrace it. We need to just love it, and we need to accept one another, and we just need to support each other. And so if you're ever out and about and somebody has autism and you see a child that's melting down, love that mom. You don't have to go up to her and do anything, but love that mom. Love that
And
little boy or girl. Just know that it's a moment. It's something they're working through. They're going to develop. They're going to grow. They're going to move past it. But it's a moment. And quit judging that parent or that child for that moment. Because A, you don't know what the parent's going through, and you don't know what the parent does know or doesn't know, or how she's learning through the process. And you don't know what's going on with that child at that moment. And so instead of always being critiquing and judgmental, we just need to like be caring and kind, you know?
I that was kind of what I was going to build on. You said it perfectly. I've seen it
Mhm.
too many times where the other people that have kids are just judging that mother like, oh, that's great parenting skills in a sarcastic way. I'm like,
Mhm.
you don't like you don't know what they're going through, and they're having a moment like you said. It's a
Mhm.
moment, and don't tell me you've never had a moment where your kid maybe you yelled
Right.
at that child even for like a second, or that child
Mhm.
had a meltdown. It
Yep.
might not be in public, but it has happens.
Yep.
And you don't know what they're going through. So, and
Mhm.
that's kind of a societal thing, unfortunately, is like when it's not us, we can easily judge. And I would say
Yep.
before you judge someone, look at your own porch.
Mhm. Yep, exactly. And I think we live in a society where everyone's pointing fingers to look for perfection. It's kind of what drives you crazy when you see all of the some of the Instagram stuff and all the stuff in social media, and everybody's putting filters on, and everybody's creating themselves as to be something they're not. And instead, we should remove the filters, and we should become who we are, and we should be just authentic and raw and real. And I'm at that point, I hardly can watch TV anymore because I'm so sick and tired of the whole celebrity stuff and all of the junk on it, because it's like, that's not real. It's not life. It's all
No,
pretend. It's all made up, and it's like, and people start to buy into that. And then that also creates the depression. And guess what? That lady down the block who looks like she has that straight A student who's superstar athlete, there's issues there too. They're not perfect either. They're having their moments too. And I always believe in that saying that don't throw stones at glass houses, because we all live in glass houses. And, the second you start judging somebody, karma comes back, and you need to look at people and, instead of, like you said, judging, embrace.
you hit there right on the or right on the head.
Yeah.
That is it's become too much. Too much perfectionism, and then nothing. What's perfect is imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is true perfection. It's being real, because you see a lot of people act like something they're not. And I've
Mm-hmm.
known people that are I consider family that have done that,
Yep.
and it's affected them in such a negative way, because they don't even know who they are anymore, because they lost themselves in the perfection and
Yep.
appearing to be perfect, which is
Mm-hmm.
not it's not real. It
Yep.
really isn't. And then society has gotten to the point where it's like you have filters on AI. You don't even know what's freaking real anymore.
Right, you don't. And that's even like, just kind of spin this off a little bit more, like what we were kind of talking out at the beginning. It's we need to take everybody with where they're at, right? And some kids will do great in a mainstream classroom, and they need that. And some kids don't. Some kids need a more supportive, smaller environment. But to sit there and say, oh, Gage, because you have autism, you're in this. This is how it is just because you have that label. That's not okay. And instead, we have to look at people without the labels, I actually think. And we should be planning and helping you grow based off of you, who you are as an individual, not a label. And there's kids I work with that if it's too noisy, it just sends them, over the deep end because they can't handle all the sensory stuff. Well, they might need then a smaller, quieter, calmer classroom. But then there's kids that are much more engaged that want to be part of the mainstream setting. They want to be given that opportunity to be the best, version of themselves in that environment. We need to allow those things to happen and not make decisions based off of a label or an IQ score or things like that.
Oh, you kind of broke up there a little bit. I guess it might
Uh,
be. I'm not sure if it might be mine because I'm outside, but there's a
okay, yeah.
lot. There's a couple of breaks in there.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that people shouldn't identify people based off of their label or their IQ score or something like that. We need to look at individuals for who they are as a human being. And a label is fine to help get you services or supports, but we shouldn't like pigeonhole you into it like you're this way because you have this label. It's
Mm.
because like I always say, and my favorite statement is just because you met someone with autism, all it means is you met someone with autism. It has nothing to do with who you are or what you can be. It just has an idea of like you might have some different characteristics and you might think certain ways, but you still can be so much more than what your label puts on you.
I love that. I've been saying that for the past couple of days, just because me and my brother we speak on labels, and we don't really because we both in different ways have been labeled in different ways, and labels to me, it's a way it's having awareness of maybe what's going on with you, but it's not a forever sentence. There's
Mhm,
just things that you can build upon and do better with, and stuff to work on later
mhm,
on. And people, like a lot of people, even I have at times have identified with them and has affected them long term. It's like, no, you're not that saying. Like, you're not that 4 letter word or 11 letter word. No,
mhm.
that's absolutely not who you are, and it's
Yep.
just something that you can work on and build on.
Mhm. Yeah. No, and I agree with you. And I think that's the biggest thing this comes down to whether you have autism, don't have autism, you Down syndrome, you don't, whatever it is, we just need to accept each other for who they are, differences, all in combined, and if we did that and we just started accepting people for who they are, regardless of the situation that they're in, we'd be fine.
I agree with that 100%. And to kind of finish things off, what is one message you have to the autism community, to young kids or adults that are struggling right now?
Yeah. The biggest thing I have, well, for kids, it's just never give up. Keep pushing forward and going after your goals and your dreams. And just, it's okay to have a passion and to build on that passion and not to feel like you have to be like what everybody else is telling you to be like. And for adults, I think the biggest thing is don't be ashamed to get help. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for that support, whether it's from another family member or a school person or a consultant or therapist or whatever it is. Don't be afraid or ashamed to do that. Just because I've come across a lot of parents who feel like because they have a child with autism, everybody treats them differently, and then no
Mm.
longer are they invited on the group play dates, and no longer, you know what? Let's get let's get you some help. Let's connect you to support groups. Let's find other family members or other people that are in the same situation and build a new circle. Build a circle of friends that truly embrace you, love you, and are going to bring you in. Don't continue to push yourself into the ones that you know, are fake and living off of
Mm.
societal measures. Be yourself, grow your own self, build your own community, and don't be ashamed of who you are or who your child is or what you have to do to go through things.
Beautiful message and a very insightful message. And I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a blessing to hear your experiences. And especially as a teacher, that's one thing, that's one perspective I really wanted to bring to this podcast and to this specific episode. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I'm so super blessed to be able to work with you, Gage, and to grow our Facebook group together. And it's just, you inspire me every day, and you have made me a better person too.
I appreciate that. It's the same way here. You know, you've helped me grow my perspective, especially with the school system and everything like that, and learning more from a teacher's perspective as well. And yeah, it's been an honor to have you on. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day and much love to you all.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Gage. It was wonderful being here with you.
It was a pleasure talking with you and talk to you soon.
All right. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.